Hey guys, it's Graham, a big welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I'm going to be telling you 5 red flags to look out for in host families. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this video and subscribe to the channel, and if you're already a subscriber, you know how special you are to me. I need y'all's help in my goal of getting to 1,000 subscribers, and we are so close to being halfway there, so please share this video with friends, subscribe, like it, comment, all that good stuff. That being said, let's jump right into the video. So for those of you who were long-time loyal fans of the channel, you might have seen a video that I did last year, 13 months ago, 6 red flags about host families. If you haven't, I'm gonna put it right up here. You can go and watch it after this. Recently in that video, someone commented asking for a part 2, and I do listen to my viewers' comments and suggestions. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm making a part 2. I'm adding some more red flags, some ones that I've learned, some ones that I've seen through my au pair experience this past year, and I really think you guys are going to love these. They're super applicable, and I hope you watch through the last one because they're so important. If you have any suggestions, you can drop them in the comments here or send me a DM over on my Instagram. So without wasting any more time, let's jump right into the first red flag, which is undefined working hours. What I mean when I say undefined working hours is if you're talking with a host family and they can't really give you an exact schedule of when you're going to be working. Now, this is acceptable in certain circumstances. For example, say you're working for medical professionals or people who work in the airline industry or any sort of job that has to have a bit of flexibility. I find all of those situations acceptable in answering this question. But if you're working for, say, an engineer and a stay-at-home mom and they can't seem to give you a set schedule of working hours, that is a big red flag for me. I think when this happens, it's a pretty good sign that the host family doesn't really need you. They just want you around to do the things that they can't be bothered to do. So that's not the purpose of an au pair. You know, the purpose of an au pair is not just to pick up the scraps of the family, to pick up the work that they don't want to do. So it is really important that you have set working hours and a schedule that you can more or less stick to. Don't be overly specific with this. For example, my year-long host family, I was working every day from more or less 3 to about 7 to 8. So I would say as long as you have an hour more so margin of error, it's gonna be okay. But if they're just saying, yeah, you're gonna work 20 hours a week, it could be all in 2 days, it could be here, it could be there, that's what I would look out for. The last thing I'll say here is if you are talking to a host family that is doing this and you really like them, perhaps just ask them to specify a bit. If they've never had an au pair before, they might not know that this is a thing that they need to do. So maybe just ask them to specify the working hours and y'all can get it resolved. Red flag number 2 is if they are unclear about their history with au pairs. Obviously, this does not apply if the family's never had an au pair, but if the family has had au pairs before and they're very vague or very unclear about how things went in the past, that's a red flag for me. In my experience, I've talked to a couple of host families that have had au pairs in the past that did not go so well, experiences that didn't turn out so well, and they don't want to tell me about it or they don't want to go into detail. And I get it, things like that can be really awkward because maybe it was an issue with them, you know, maybe it was an issue kind of personal. But I do encourage you to ask questions about things like that because you need to know if they didn't get along with the other au pair, why? What happened? Ask them how things could have turned out differently and what could be changed in the future. If y'all have seen my ghosting video, I kind of talk about a situation like this. If you haven't seen it, I'm gonna link it up here. You can go and watch it afterwards. But I interviewed with a host family in Austria one time. I'm gonna use them several times in this video actually, and they seemed really fantastic. But when I pressed them about what they were saying with their former au pairs, their story just didn't quite add up. You know, they said some details that didn't match what they were currently saying, or I don't know, things just seemed a bit off to me, and that was a really big red flag. So do watch out for stuff like that. I suggest you even take notes of what they're saying in the video calls. That way, if they say something in the future that doesn't quite sound right to you, you can go back, look at the notes, and see what they said the first time. Red flag number 3, this one is a big one, is if they don't want you to talk with the host kids. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna upgrade this one from red flag to like red fireworks. This is so important that you speak with the host kids, and if you're finding a family that doesn't want to let lets you talk with the host kids in the interviews, that's a bad sign. Just to start out with a general rule here, make sure the pictures that you're seeing in their Au Pair World profile match the faces in the videos. That's obviously very important just to start out. But speaking to the children in these interviews is not just a good way to find out if they actually exist, but it's also a good way to get a vibe for the host family and how they work. Obviously, you can only tell so much about kids through a video interview. Kids are often shy in front of the camera, or they don't want to really talk to strangers that much, and that's fine. But just so long as you see kind of that interaction between the parents and the kids in that interview, that can be very telling as to what the environment of the house is like and what kind of relationship the kids and the parents have. In my experience, I found that typically Germans and Austrians don't include their kids in the first video interview. I think in general that culture is just a bit more cautious about kids, whereas I've never had that problem in Spain. People are like, here, look at my kids, aren't they so cute? So don't be shocked if you go into the first interview and you don't see the kids. That's completely acceptable, completely normal. But if you do like the family and you go on to do another interview, make sure that you speak to the kids at least one time before you agree to do anything with the family. A last little tip that I'm gonna throw in for free here is if you are expected to speak to the children in a certain language, say English, Spanish, or German, you're gonna wanna make sure that the kids actually speak that language. If you watch my Au Pair Horror Story, you know that I made this mistake. I was expected to speak to the kids in English. The parents told me the kids spoke really great English. I never tested them. I never thought to speak to them in English, and I came to find out that they did not speak any English whatsoever. So that whole situation could have been avoided in a 30-second interaction over a video call. So make sure that if you are expected to speak a certain language, that the kids speak that language, and or you can communicate with them somehow. Red flag number 4 kind of relates to the first one I gave you, but if you have an undefined role in the family. What I mean when I say this is if you're talking with a family and they're telling you what they expect out of the au pair and they can't really tell you anything of substance, you know? If they can't tell you exactly what you're supposed to do in the house or what they want out of you, what they expect out of you, that is a big red flag for me that the family really doesn't know what an au pair is and that they haven't drawn any boundaries. Y'all have probably heard me talk about how important it is to draw boundaries with your host family and to not cross that line. So in my experience, when you do find families like this that don't really have set roles for the au pair, boundaries can be crossed really easily because they're not even drawn in the first place. I just think in general, when this happens, it becomes really easy for the family to overwork you or to give you too many roles. For example, I had a friend in Seville who worked for a family that pretty much did this exact same thing. She said that it sounded really appealing to her in the beginning because they were very open about what her job might be. She might have whole days off, and when she got there, she did realize that sometimes she might have 2 or 3 days off additionally with the weekend days off, but then other days she might have to work 18 hours or crazy long days, might have to babysit the kids overnight for 2 nights in a row, you know, just things that are over the top. So make sure that if you are talking to a host family, they have a very set idea of what they want their au pair to do, and you can draw those things down in a contract and not just say, well, help out when you're needed. The last red flag to watch out for, and this one might seem a bit obvious, is if it's too good to be true, then it's probably too good to be true. If you're talking to a host family and everything they say is just perfect, if they just sound like an absolute dream, it seems like they are speaking to you, the job was made for you, there's no fault, there's no wrong, then it's probably going to be a disaster. The thing to keep in mind here is no one is perfect. No family is perfect. Everyone has their flaws, everyone has their issues, and people can tell you whatever they want to tell you in a video interview. It's very hard to fact check these things. So just keep that in mind, that no family is going to be able to provide the perfect au pair experience for you, nor is there a perfect host family. Just keep an eye out for that because it can be really deceiving. I've had 2 situations in which I talked to the perfect family. The first time was with my Au Pair Horror Story. They painted themselves as the Mona Lisa of host families. Just perfect. They could not be better. The job was perfect. The kids are perfect. The family's perfect. And then when I got there, I came to realize that none of it was perfect. It was all really messed up, really flawed, very confusing family with lots of conflicting dialogues. So the big thing to keep in mind is no family's perfect. And if they're trying to give you this image of themselves, this flawless image, then I would say they're probably trying to cover up something. The Austrian host family that I keep referring to was the exact same way. Everything was just ideal. Their house, their kids, there was a car, they're gonna pay you a ton of money. Everything could not be better. It was the definition of perfect. And I quickly remembered back on my bad experience and realized that nothing is perfect. So when you do see something like this coming up, when you see a host family that just seems flawless, impeccable, realize that nothing is ever perfect, especially when you're dealing with kids and schedules and logistics. So just keep that in mind and don't be fooled. As we say in the South, not everything that shines is gold. Keep that in mind and don't go for the first family that catches your eye. Overall, the big lesson here is to trust your gut. Trust your gut, trust how you're feeling. And if you don't trust your gut, get a second opinion. Have somebody else listen in the interview with you or tell the situation to someone else, perhaps a parent or a friend. Oftentimes they can see things that we can't. Alright guys, so those are my 5 red flags, part 2 of the red flag video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have, please be sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. If you have any suggestions for videos in the future, let me know down in the comments below or send me a DM over on Instagram. I check them both every day and I will definitely take your suggestion into consideration. Thank you so much. New videos come twice a week. Muchas gracias y hasta luego.